Oh boy, the power of fear. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Live. Hey, listen, I am not a doctor or a professional. I'm not giving any medical advice out. If you hear that ringing, it's my dog shaking his leash. Anyways, what's up, everybody? I can't see you. So, the power of fear. Fear. And it grabs us by the, you know what I'm talking about. Right there, it grabs us. So, anyways, yes, I'm not giving any medical advice. Always check with healthcare professionals, okay? But I'm a DJ. This is it right there, okay? Don't forget, like and subscribe, okay? We're getting our asses kicked here in Jersey. We need to get the numbers up, everybody. So, fear. You have fear. I have fear. We're human. Now, especially us guys. Hey, I'm not afraid of anything. You're afraid. If you're someone who has emotions, if you laugh, that means you also cry. If you never cry, that means you never laugh because they're the same coin. Fear. If you have no fear, that means you do have fear because it's the same coin, different sides. So, how can we overcome our fears? Because, and I'm not talking about fear of like, World War II fear or on the beaches of Normandy fear. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about life and death. Yes, it's the type of fear, but there's so many layers of fear, so many different types of fear that hold us back from living our best lives. And I know me, listen, I might as well be afraid of my own shadow because how the hell I even function, I don't know. But so it's okay to be afraid. It's not okay to let fear control us and put us underneath our bed where we don't go out. That's not okay. And better to die trying than to just acquiesce and be like, oh, this is the way it is. No, God didn't make us afraid. Or God didn't make us afraid. God didn't make us to capitulate to fear. Fear is part of us. We're human. All animals have fear, and we are an animal, right? So how can we, beat this? So the first thing is, usually when we talk about fear, I'm talking about like, it could be something very simple. It could be fear of rejection. I'm afraid to ask that girl out, or you're afraid to ask that person out on a date. That's a level of fear. Again, I get it. It's not World War II, storming the beaches of Normandy level fear, but it's a fear of rejection, right? I'm afraid to ask for a raise. I'm afraid to tell my mother or father that, I'm not coming to this event with them. I'm afraid to, whatever it may be. I'm afraid to say, I don't want to be an accountant. I want to go into culinary arts. My family might be disappointed in me. Things like that. I know for me, so many times, like I was afraid to tell my parents that, I wasn't going to Catholic church anymore, and not that I still honor my Catholic roots, and actually I still go to Catholic church, but my point is like not as much anymore. So that was a special fear for me. Again, I wasn't afraid I was going to die, but you're afraid like, oh, I'm going to let someone down, and I still go to church, but I go usually to Protestant church. And occasionally I make a guest appearance at the Catholic church, Padre Santo Spirito Nome, because to make my mom happy or make my family happy. I'm not dissing anything, but I'm just saying it was a decision that I made, and it wasn't some grand, oh, I'm now changing. No, but you get what I'm saying? It's like, or, you might, maybe you disappoint your parents. Like I said, oh, I don't want to be an accountant. I want to be a chef, things like that. So, and I had a fear, like I was letting someone down, or a fear to break up with somebody. You don't want to hurt them, right? That's a kind of you're afraid of what though, So things like that. I know a story about fear that is a little bit more tangible, that does kind of hurt people is, many years ago, many years ago, my grandfather was alive. He was afraid to drive because he got into an accident. Thank God nobody got hurt, no one died. But after the accident, it shook him, and he acquiesced and got rid of it, didn't renew his license, didn't drive anymore. Now that wouldn't have been a problem if he wasn't the only person driving in the family. He had 3 kids, a wife, and he's like, I'm not driving anymore. Then who's going to drive? Like, who you got? What? And so that fear that controlled him, that he let control him, put a big weight on my family, before I was, well, actually when I was alive too, when I was born and after, but because we always had to drive. Someone always, there was no Uber back then, so, and they didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't always take taxis. So somebody always had to drive him, and it was like, you're perfectly healthy, you're fine, you could drive, so it put a big damper on the family. Now he was a good, loving, caring grandfather who also was very generous in his own way, but still, you know what I'm saying? So that fear, and he did nothing to try to fight that fear. So things like that. So what is holding you back? What's holding you? What fear is holding you back? You're afraid to ask for that raise. Why? You're afraid you might not get it. Okay. You're afraid to ask the person out on a date. Okay. You're afraid to maybe come out as gay, or to your family. You're afraid to maybe say, you're not going to go into that major. You want to major in something else in college. You're afraid to tell people you're in your circle of how you feel about that certain social issue. But if you look at it, none of these fears that we have, no one's going to die, but it feels like that, right? So how can we overcome these fears? So that's one thing we want to talk about. There's um, a thing called ERP, exposure response prevention, and the way you get through fear is to expose yourself to it in small amounts. So, like, let's just pretend I was scared of heights, but I'm not. I think this is an example. And maybe, so I would, every day or every other day or every week, go one step higher, and then, look down and come down. One step higher than that, come down. And that's what you're doing. You're taking literally steps and figurative steps to fight your fear. If you're afraid to be in public or in large crowds, you wouldn't just throw yourself in the crowd. I mean, you could do that. That could work out, because that is ERP. But ERP usually is step by step. So maybe you go into a minutia small crowd, and then the next week you go into a medium-sized crowd, and then maybe next week, but you have to fight that fear. So that's how you beat it. And you beat it through admitting you're scared by looking in the mirror or telling yourself you're scared. Especially us guys, we like to bullshit ourselves. I ain't scared, I'm scared. No, you're scared. And that's okay, because once you admit you're scared, you're a step closer to being not scared anymore. And it really is just a fear. That's all it is. It's a cardboard monster, has no power. And when there's been times in your life, right, you watching this, that you have overcome fears. And how did that feel? That felt great, right? But we have to, our bodies are, our brains work in such a way that we have new fears, and we can't just click it off, click it on like that. We have to refight. It's like, got to fight again, a new monster, so to speak. So exposure response prevention. The other thing I would say is talk to somebody, someone that you trust. I love going to therapy. I use BetterHelp.com or the app, and you get a therapist via FaceTime. You choose the therapist. They should be freaking paying me for this shit, but they're not. Anyways, hold on. Is my dog making noise? Hold on. He sounds like he's eating something. Hey. He's asleep. Anyways, but even dogs are scared, right? So anyways, but talking to a therapist, I talk about my fears to my therapist. Like, I'm afraid my businesses aren't going to do well. And, anyone who owns a business knows you have ups and downs, so how do I get through that? And you role play in your head. Okay. If my business goes and has a bad month or 2 months or 3 months, what's going to happen to me? What? I'm not going to die. I'm not going to get hurt. What? And even death itself, we're supposed to die. Hello. So the fear of death, that is the ultimate fear, right? And I'm not saying, go try and kill yourself, because that will cure the fear. That'd be an exception. You don't want to do ERP in that respect. But my point is, you do want to think about it and say, hey, look, this is something that we all have to go through. It's part of life. It sucks. It's bad. It's sad. But so even that, right? But most of our fears, again, are not death related. Most of our fears are rejection related. Most of our fears are, what will people think of us? What will we think of ourselves? Or I know I have also irrational fears that are like totally just stupid, like germophobia. Like, oh, I hate touching doorknobs that like 10,000 other people have just touched. And you may laugh, but I struggle with that. So I have to, exposure response prevention. I have to grab the knob of the door and open it, and just, that's it, force myself to go on my day, versus waiting for someone else to open it, or opening it with a, paper towel or something. Like, that might sound funny, but the right way to do it is to tackle the fear, and so, and don't put the hand gel on. You only do that if you're going to eat and there's no soap and water. So things like that, you have to, again, expose yourself to that fear and stand up to the bully of fear. We're afraid to be alone, right? We stay in bad relationships. We stay at a job that sucks. We stay at a job that pays us well, but we're not happy. Why? Why do we stay there? Well, the bills, the family. Yeah, but you can get a different job. You're afraid. You're afraid to leave. Why? Well, I'm making X amount of money. Okay, we'll start to learn to live on less and then get a new job. Well, what's holding you back? Fear. But if you look at it, it's not going to kill anybody. It's not going to hurt anybody. So what? You're not going to drive a newer car. So what? You're not going to go on vacation every year. So what? You're not going to have 10 pairs of shoes. Get rid of the job and get a new job. I'm not saying go cold turkey, but start looking, you know what I mean? Like that. Uh, you know, what's the big deal if she says no to you? It's already no anyways. You're not dating the person. What? What's the problem? Once you get that, you become inoculated. It's like a vaccine, and then you're brave and you can do whatever. So I know sometimes I get scared. Again, I'm not life and death scared, but I say to myself, oh, I'm gonna go cycling in the city. You know, could something happen? Yeah, but I'm not living like that, man. I'm gonna be safe. I'm not gonna go reckless, but I, you know what I mean. I have to. So a lot of it is not feeling. You can't wait till you feel brave. Don't do that. It's an action. The action comes first. Stepping forward, the longest. The first stride is the longest, but the action comes first. Asking the girl out, asking the guy out, talking about it with a therapist, telling yourself, again, me getting on the bicycle and going into the city. Then comes the bravery. Not let me wait to be brave and then do it. No, it's do it, be scared, and then the bravery comes through the exposure response prevention. The vaccine is you tackling that fear. And again, we know this in theory. We know it on paper. Oh, it can't kill me. It can't hurt me. And maybe the bicycle is a bad analogy because you could get killed on a bicycle, but possible, not probable. But I mean, asking the girl out or asking for a raise, no one's going to die. No one's going to get hurt. Why aren't you asking? I have friends of mine that they only want to travel in America. They're afraid. They're deathly afraid to travel to Canada or Italy or Hawaii. Well, Hawaii is America, but you know what I'm saying, off of the continent of North America, and you're not going to die. I understand planes crash. You have a greater chance to get hit by lightning, so don't leave the house. No, don't leave the house. You got a greater chance to get hit in the head with a meteorite than dying in a plane crash. You have a greater chance of dying in a car crash than dying in a plane crash. So take the flight to Europe. Stop going back and forth to Florida and California. Like, take the flight to Europe. You're gonna be fine. You're not gonna die. And again, you got greater odds of dying in a car crash, but you get in a car, right? So, I mean, you got to tell you, so you have to just do that, and just don't wait to be brave enough to do it. Do it. It's like was when I was a kid, I learned how to ride a bicycle, and I was afraid. I had to learn to ride it on my own because I was afraid I was going to fall. And so I was 8 years old, and I taught myself how to ride, and I fell, and I found out, well, after I fell, it wasn't that bad. So I kept on falling, and eventually I learned. But I had to get through that. How much does it mean to you or me to travel or to ride the bicycle or to find true love or to get that raise or to get a new job or to be open the door without without hand gelling right away or waiting for someone else to open it or using a napkin? Like, I'm not living that life, and I want you to be scared, and I want you to beat your fear. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time, step by step, and sometimes things will happen quicker than others, but you can do it. I have faith in you. I'm not stronger than you. Nobody is stronger than you. You are as strong as the strongest person. The difference is you just have to take that step, and it's going to be uncomfortable. That's why it's an action first, not a feeling. I got to feel like when I'm ready. I got to feel when I'm ready. You're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready to ask for the raise. You're never going to be ready to ask that girl out, that guy out. You're never going to be ready, uh, you know, to be in a large crowd. You're just never going to be ready. It takes time, but through step by step exposure response prevention, read up on it. You can take baby steps and get there. You know, um, again, asking for the raise. You can practice asking for that raise. Uh, and then ask the boss. In a moment. So it doesn't have to be cold turkey, like boom here. This is why having a therapist is good, or a coach, or a priest, or a rabbi, or an imam, someone that you can talk to, and shine a light to stuff, and say, yeah, I need to do this. But again, you still have to do it though. That's the thing. And once you fail, and you will eventually, there'll be something that you fail at that you tried. And so you look at it, you're like, oh my God, I still have all my fingers. Oh my God, I went on the plane to Italy and I came back in one piece. Oh my God, there was turbulence, it was shaking, and everything was fine. So you just have to do it. You have to soak up the fear, become one with the fear. That's the exposure response, meaning your response is not going to be to run. Your response is going to be to stay and sit in it, to bathe in the fear. And then the prevention comes when, oh my God, the next time around, yeah, I'm not as afraid. And again, I'm not as afraid a little bit more. Oh, I'm not as afraid as a little bit more. And then the fear starts to dissipate after the 12th or 13th time. And then poof, I'm no longer afraid to ask for a raise. I'm no longer afraid to go up, heights, or whatever it may be. I'm no longer afraid to challenge my mother and father respectively and say, hey, no, I'm not, nope, not doing this. Again, you have to practice that, in the mirror, or with people, or a counselor or somebody. But we all need that team to help us. No man or no woman is an island. So there's a lot of great content on YouTube. I hope this shed some help and shed some light on the power of fear, because most of the time, and I'm not talking about life and death fear, I'm talking about, again, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of being in a place that you're not comfortable with. I have also like a fear, not, yeah, again, a fear of travel, because I'm not at home. I'm comfortable at home, but I make myself go and travel. I've been out of the country. I've used my passport. I go because I know, like, hey, this is not good, like, and I feel great after, as long as I'm with the right company. Some people I travel with, I'm like, but you know what I'm saying. But anyways, because it's a comfort thing, right? And that's why we stay in bad jobs. That's why we stay in bad relationships, because we're afraid of the unknown. But if you get out of a bad relationship, what? Nothing. What's going to happen? What? What's going to happen if you break up with that person? You're gonna be fine. It's gonna be sad, and you're gonna move on. Nothing bad's gonna happen. But we're afraid because it's the unknown, the boogeyman, the power of fear. But like, I think, what was the president said? The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Fear is a paper mache monster. Fear is a monster made out of cotton balls, but it looks like metal. But if you touch it or grab it or punch it, it's like, oh my God, it's just nothing. It's the fear of the unknown. And that's what holds us back, not knowing. So we conjure up these monsters in our mind, or, oh my God, I'm going to die if she says no to me, or, if I go a little bit further, uh, traveling somewhere that I might not be totally comfortable with. I'm not saying travel to some war torn country, but what I'm saying is, you know what I mean? Like, you want to travel. So maybe start off just traveling within your county, and then go a little bit further out. You know what I'm saying? So all these little things, and, you know, don't poo-poo or make fun of somebody who's afraid, because we all have our fears. Like I said, and we all have our brave moments too. By the way, I'm sure you watching, you've done some very, very brave things in your life. And then you have these fears. So I know me too. I've done some really brave things in my life, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why can't I touch this frigging doorknob? Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? So our brain works in weird ways, and it's okay. We all have our fears, and some fears could be legit, but most fears aren't. Most fears are silly. And I think maybe we're embarrassed to talk about that, because it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be tough. Oh, I bench press, or, like, I drive Mercedes. Like, I got all my shit together, and you don't. We all have fears. So it's okay to have fear. You're supposed to have fear. We are humans, and you put your fear in a bag, and you take it with you and you march forward. That's the exposure response prevention. So look it up. I know you can do it. I have faith in you. You are as strong as the next person. No questions about it. So you can do it. And yeah, talk to maybe a psychologist, or a coach or a therapist. And if your fears are really, really bad and they're making you stay inside when you're not even, and it's affecting your relationships and your job and stuff, maybe it's time to go onto some medication or something. I would also say exercise is a great way to help, you know, relax fears and anxieties and stress, because we know for a fact that exercising, walking, hitting the gym or swimming or cycling or just going out for a walk for an hour releases endorphins and happy hormones. Certain foods, right, can help or hurt us with stress and anxiety, aka fear. So, getting off the liquor and getting off of, junk food, eating more vegetables, eating more lean meats and fish, these are things that are not going to cure you, but again, it all stacks up to help or hurt you. You know what I mean? Getting off of the sodas and the sweet drinks, it's not going to make you brave all of a sudden, but again, every little increment helps. And if you have to go on medication, better that, right, through your doctor than you're sitting home and you're staring at the wall because you're afraid of life. Everything is stacked up against you over the years, and now you're sitting there afraid and you're losing everything. The irony is you're losing everything. The thing that you feared would happen is happening, you know? So if you get up and fight every minute, or every day, the irony is you start to live and you start to gain and you start to win. There's the irony in that. So you were tackling that fear, because staying home, playing it safe, you've just lost everything. So what you were worried about actually happened. You know what I mean? So anyways, you can do it. I have faith in you. You deserve the best. All right. Now check back in. A lot of great content coming up. And thanks everybody. I'm signing out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.